Hi guys, I'm Kranti Sambhav. Welcome to Times Drive. Today in this different kind of session, we have one different kind of guest. Why? Because this is the first time Mr. Ashim Sharma is joining us, who is a partner and group head, Nomura Research Institute, and he specializes in business performance improvement, including auto engineering and logistics. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sharma, for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And recently you had this study on COVID effect or coronavirus effect on auto industry. So this chat is basically about that. I'm hearing so many people or so many researchers, so many stories talking about this is the new. What is this new, which according to your study, what is this new?
So, the new or the new normal, as people are calling it, so according to us, or as also what most medical practitioners, industry people are saying, is that we would need to, for at least maybe another year or so, have to live with some sort of restrictions around us. So right now, the virus is already increasing at a fast pace, infecting lots of people. Even after the situation comes under control, there are talks that maybe a second wave could also come in. So some sort of social distancing and things like that are going to exist. So when we say the new, it means that life is going to be altered to some extent, especially as far as our conditions around traveling, conditions around co-working, interacting with people are concerned. There is going to be some sort of a social distancing measure that's going to be in place for the foreseeable future.
And if we look at automobile market, how do you see this new normal working?
So I think along different aspects, it's going to have different sorts of effects. Say, for example, let's start from consumers buying cars. Right? So there is a belief that is coming in that at least in the short run, people are going to be averse towards using shared mobility or maybe even public transport. So the ones who can afford might want to go for their own vehicle, whether it's a two-wheeler, whether it's a four-wheeler. So we do see some of that shift happening away from shared modes, just because people would be a little bit averse to getting into something which you don't know who went before you, and if possibly an infection could have permeated. So that kind of a thing is going to happen as far as the buying part goes. Now, if we move, to the stage before that, which is the dealerships, I think there is going to be a huge effect there. It's a very well-known fact that dealers rely on people walking into their showrooms to build a pipeline. They also have events like in malls, offices, etc., wherein people come and sort of inquiries are registered, apart from the online channels and all. So all of these offline channels suddenly will become less prominent in their mix. People will be averse to going in, even taking test drives. And, the things like mall events when you would see people crowd around a car, everybody getting in, trying to figure out the features, etc. I think all of that is going to take sort of a backseat. So some innovations in that area will also start becoming mainstream. How do you build the dealer pipeline when you cannot actually get the customers into the showroom, which used to be one of the aspects right now?
And that is one of the biggest challenges automobile dealerships they're facing anyway, even before COVID-19 or coronavirus impact. We've heard so many dealerships getting shut. With this new challenge, are we going to see job losses or shutting of automobile dealerships?
Yes, to some extent that would happen. It's very much possible because you have sort of zero business. You have money stuck in the inventories, plus you are selling nothing. So the employee salaries and all come to you. Some of them also have rented out expensive real estate where they've set up these dealerships. So that kind of an effect will come in. We also hear of how OEMs are planning to support some of the dealers, because see, if you lose a dealer in a particular region or a particular area, it suddenly also becomes a blind spot for you.
First part of your answer, the previous answer was about people not going for shared mobility, or they might be hesitant. So that also means which we can read, or we are trying to read that, predict that? Are we going to see some kind of growth in personal mobility, buying of cars, more than what we are anticipating?
Yeah, so it's a twofold thing that's happening there. On the one hand, people's personal finances would be taking a hit because there are job losses, there are pay cuts, and things like that. So that leads to a dip in your propensity to buy a car, which is an expensive item to buy. So that would lead to sort of a downward shift. But on the other hand, those who can afford it and were not buying because they found shared mobility to be convenient, you could always hail an Uber, Ola, go to your office. Those people would get averse to using them and they might start buying. So, we'll have these sort of opposing forces that will be at play. So we would see, for example, entry-level bikes, maybe many more people want to buy those ones who can afford entry-level cars. So that kind of a shift may happen with, those people who were earlier using some form of public transport.
All right. And coming back to that point which we were discussing, if you look at, you said technological, new ways or some novelty which has to come in the dealership model. What do you suggest? What do you think is going to happen if we are, if this current model is, it takes a hit like this?
Now, the innovation will happen around how you can use online means to engage the customer. So one is how you pull people towards your website. The obvious thing that used to get done was you advertise your cars and things like that, and people want to Google up, they come, they visit, you have 360-degree views, you can configure your vehicle online and stuff like that, which was very much there. And as we talk, OEMs have even allowed you, also facilitated on their websites that you can actually place an order for a car, and when the lockdown is, it will be delivered to you. But I'm also talking of the other aspect, that how do you engage with customers in a period like this? So for that, I think every car company, along with their dealerships, will also have to think of certain ways in which the customer can be engaged while at home.
So even last year, or maybe last year, the online searches or the decision making was anyway going in favor of online searches. Even manufacturers, they're saying that the footfall has decreased by, because almost 2/3 of decisions are made online. So are we at a model where dealerships will be out of the context or out of the picture? They will be only workshops and after sales maintenance work job. Are you looking at that?
No, I don't think it's going to be that radical a shift that they go completely out of the picture. I think the power of online will be harnessed much more. So in that manner, it will become complementary to what they were doing. So, as the situation is that has been created, is not allowing us to have many offline activities that used to happen. Those now start happening online. It probably might work out to be more cost effective also. But having said that, the final, touch and feel, that aspect, I think is still going to stay, because the car is still a very expensive asset in terms of, in the hierarchy of assets that any particular individual purchases. So they would want to go have a touch and feel, probably have a test drive. So that part is going to stay.
And I'll
just add a small point here. It also varies a little when we look at the rural parts of India. The internet penetration is there, but it's not that fast and things like that. So, there again, the touch and feel remains much more. So probably innovations around maybe having an IVR-based system there, so that people in this kind of conditions start looking at that, calling up that, and that's how the leads or inquiries get generated, will also be something that.
Right, and over there, public transportation is such that people, they might end up using shared mobility again and again anyway. This is what my state, but I'm not too sure about that. How do you see the market doing? We were anyway going through a recession, then coronavirus. Now, when you think Indian auto market, or what's your reading as far as Indian auto market is concerned?
So I think, as most people also believe, this year is going to be a net dip. It's over last year, you know, and the extent of that depends on when do measures get eased, and people can start going back to buying vehicles and all of that. So this year is going to be a dip. Next year we might start seeing at least the market come back to the previous year levels, or a slight growth over that. But it's also contingent on some externalities like the vaccine.
Hmm.
Currently, the estimates are that maybe in 12 to 18 months down the line, we will have a vaccine, and or before that, we'll at least have a medicine that shows people that if you contract this, you can be cured.
Hmm.
So those uncertainties are still there. So people will have to prepare for those scenarios. But in the event that we do get a vaccine, or we do get a medical cure that is there, short medical cure that is there, then next year we would see at least things leveling off or a bit of a growth coming.
Okay, so we talked about the retailing and customers.
Right.
What do you think about the manufacturers right now? How healthy do they look, and what's your reading?
So I think they are also all saddled with inventories right now, because the lockdown was sudden, and this is a continuous process. So you have demand, you keep making as per that. Some of it is in logistics, some in stockyards, some at dealers, some within the plant, and some at various stages of work in progress within the plant, some also at the supplier end, right? So they are saddled with inventories. Having said that, I think once there is some clarity on when car buying is going to start, they will also have to look at what is the condition of their supply chains.
Okay.
As you know, even if one part is missing in the vehicle, you cannot really assemble the vehicle. So I think a host of measures is going to play out there. One thing which is about India is that many people who work in plants also stay in the close vicinity of plants. The hunch is that some of the larger players have also given out advanced salaries and things like that. So maybe many of such people are also today also in the vicinity of plants and haven't gone back to their hometowns, villages, etc. So given that case, it's a positive that you can at least get them back into the factory. How those factories will be run, I think, will be a little bit akin to how hospitals are being run.
Right.
Staying in the hospital or very close to the hospital, and it's like a contained group that is working so that the spread of infection is low. Because to be honest, there are many activities in an automobile production setup where social distancing is difficult to maintain. You need to work in close vicinity of each other and assemble the vehicles. So I think some of the best practices from hospitals will have to come into plants. Say when you are dealing with the external world, where say a truck is coming with a consignment from a supplier, there is a buffer zone where all of this is unloaded, it's disinfected, and then the people who are interacting are probably wearing some sort of PPE, and then that, and there is restricted access to such people in areas of the plant. Also, I think very important will be track and trace. Because say an infection spreads, you should be able to not just track the part, but also track who worked on this part. So that you can probably isolate that entire batch or lot, and does not just work down in the supply chain. Right. So track and trace capabilities will also become very important. Lastly, I think all manufacturers have a multi-tiered supply chain. Everybody has visibility about the tier ones, say to tier twos, but they also tier threes. So it will be very important to see which node is not functioning. Because somebody has undue financial stress. Somebody, because a tier two, tier three, maybe all the workers who are working have not gone back to their hometown or villages. So it'll be important to understand the time to restart for such nodes. And then take countermeasures on, can we look at another tier 3 to come in? Or this is which nodes are functioning, which are the variants we can make, or which are the vehicle types we can make. I think that kind of a dynamic planning will also become very important as far as the upstream supply chain to the OEMs is concerned.
One more question, Mr. Sharma. What are your predictions if you look at post-corona, post-COVID scenario in automobile market?
So I think there are a couple of things that are also going to happen on the vehicles themselves. For example, redesign of surfaces so that they are easy to clean, disinfect. We might also see some sort of flexible partitioning happening in the vehicle, say isolating the passengers from the driver and things like that. So those kind of features might start becoming mainstream in vehicles as people become more and more conscious about infections and things like that. The other thing to see will be that there might be a new set of customers that will come into the market. These were people using shared mobility today. So they just want a vehicle to go from point A to point B, but want a safe vehicle. So probably some more variants will be on the minds of OEMs to cater to the needs of this emerging
Stripped down versions.
Maybe some stripped down versions, more affordable versions, and also maybe some sort of innovative financing schemes, which not just for this set, but for the entire set of customers that will come in. Another thing that will happen is, when a market contracts, and there will be a larger fight for market share. And one of the levers that is used by players is to excite the market with new launches, new products. But then on the other hand, you've also faced losses. I think the product development and launch costs will be really under the scanner to save every dollar possible there. So a lot of measures will be taken on the R&D side also to reduce both time as well as the cost to market of new products. So modular concepts, which are used by OEMs, I think will be leveraged even more. Platforms will be leveraged even more. Also seeing how we can tweak existing things to give them a freshened look and launch them in the market. So those kind of things will also gain a lot of prominence to keep the customer engaged, yet not incur a lot of costs for doing so.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashim Sharma, for this chat. And plus, we covered right from the dealership network, retailing to customers and manufacturers, what kind of scenario we might see. Which also has lots of variables, including vaccination, if we get the vaccine in time. But as far as Mr. Sharma is concerned, I think clearly this year we are not going to see any. We are going to see next year might see some revival. So thank you, Mr. Sharma. Thanks for this chat and this analysis.
Thank you. Thank you very much.